This is the finals to decide it all. The pressure is at max now. I wouldn't be too surprised to see perhaps a cheat on the Shing ban.
Yep, there you go. You called it, Peter. No big surprise there. And then the Water Ryu being banned out by Mr.Chung against Frank. So really taking out the value that monster has been bringing out for Frank. We'll see what the draft ends up being. Really all eyes on Frank right now as we see Ganny being considered. Wouldn't be a big surprise for Mr.Chung.
Very smart ban for Mr.Chung. It definitely makes it a lot scarier now for Frank to try to go for Nikki and the AoE damage again, because the Water Ryu seem to be a very crucial unit for that strategy.
Yeah, we did see the Water Ryu really be able to set up everything for the team and also continue finishing off the battles as well. So Okeanos looking like the big consideration here for Frank with the Lulu. I mean, these monsters themselves are no strangers. We're very used to them. But I'm wondering, is this really the way to try to battle things out against what Mr.Chung has been bringing out?
Lulu speaks volumes right now. That is the most important pick to look at because it shows that Frank will most likely not go for one-turn cleaves. Like, Nikki is still an option. Look, she is not there just for the one turn. She is good throughout the whole entire match. It's just that Frank will not try to just gamble it all on that one turn. Okay,
so he wants to try to make a bit more of a stability play, doesn't want to risk it all in one turn. I mean, we've seen that go awry against Mr.Chung, so we'll see how that pans out. Mr.Chung, meanwhile, still brings out that Hathor, and then the Gianna as well.
Mr. Sleep, as we know him, he is no stranger to that strategy. You take out his Cheetah on the Shang, and he always has the trusty Hathor. Chiwoo is going to be putting a bit more emphasis now on grabbing that turn one.
Okay, and then the Chung Pong as well being picked up by Frank. So Frank, you know, kind of shifting back a little bit more for that turn one, but still has a little bit more of a long-term game plan, it looks like, with the Lulu.
The Lulu definitely is a double-edged sword here. It can work out fantastically in one way or the other. But let's get back to that because we see Fire Ryu. I love this monster.
Is it gonna get locked in? Okay, Mr.Chung with the Fire Ryu, and then we have the Juno as well.
Mr.Chung, he knows that his opponent is trying to outspeed him right now, and he just brought in some really strong bruisers to deal with all that CC. And of course now Mr. Frank is switching it up, going for potentially the Leona, but he decides, you know what, let's go for Annabelle.
Okay, we've seen Annabelle used to quite good success so far in the APAC preliminaries. Not always working out, but quite stable in whenever she's brought in. So now all the picks are set. We're waiting for the bans between these two players.
Especially stable against the Fire Ryu because she is a water unit and she's not scared of hitting that Fire Ryu whenever the opportunity is there. Now, this is where it's really important to keep in mind that Mr. Chung's draft is very not synergetic, because his opponent doesn't have too many buffs, but he's got a lot of strippers. Gan eventually doesn't have too much value. We have a lot lying on the hands of Fire Ryu for Mr. Chung.
All right, we'll see how that goes. The bomb not able to secure onto Annabelle.
That is a great start for Frank. And we see that Annabelle actually take a turn before the Ganymede can afford to reset. And she is looking for the potential cleanse onto Lulu or the armor break onto Fire Ryu. Oh my god, the damage!
And Fire Ryu answers right back, of course, has that ability to counter with the Shoryuken, and then you can also lead it in for extra damage with a chance. So, the Lulu.
The Lulu coming in right before Ganny. It literally just had the perfect speed tuning. It moved after the stripper and then right before the one that wanted to use the anti-immunity.
That is huge. So Frank clearly well prepared for this matchup right now. You mentioned it. All eyes on this Fire Ryu. How much damage can you do?
Ruken, Hadoken, but it all glances, and Annabelle sitting there super healthy, and now Juno missing. Okeanos has the field set up. Armor breaks are there. Rain of Stones. You see some of the damage.
Okay, and then 3 stuns. A little bit of damage across the board.
A little bit, but of course, look at the Fire Ryu. He keeps popping up. Such a scary unit. Glancing on Annabelle makes her not do as much damage onto the Fire Ryu, so he's gonna go for the girl's prayer first.
Yeah, I mean, all these counters coming out, if you don't have that attack power to really take out the Fire Ryu. He'll keep answering back. This is looking a little dangerous.
Frank playing it safe, making sure to not hit the Fire Ryu more than he needs to. He is going to be relying on most likely the Anvil to take him out. For now, putting a lot more damage onto Gianna.
Yep, just trying to burst out at least one monster, and we're seeing a lot of damage come out. Lulu just trying to finish, not enough damage just yet, but of course, the Gianna's still stunned as well.
Now, the question is, this is basically Mr.Chung buying time for Fire Ryu, looking for the solo, and Frank trying to survive all of these shurikens and hadokens.
Oh my gosh, the Hadoken's always following through as well. This Fire Ryu providing so much value for Mr. Chung right now.
Has the attack break back. That's what I would do to the Fire Ryu if I was Frank, and he landed. That is very huge.
Yeah, that is massive. We've seen the damage he's been doing so far, but so much now being focused onto this Chung Hung from the side of Mr. Chung.
Chung Hung definitely needs that top me up from Lulu, getting that health back, and he is sitting on a turn away from his skill 3, his main control skill. Okeanos, you need to prove yourself. Rain of Stones!
And he
there
gets the damage and the stun onto the Ryu as well.
This is
huge
the golden opportunity! And the Anvil with the teddy bear!
Just nukes down the Fire Ryu, and that secures the win. Frank comes in with a plan, and he takes the first game against the defending world champion, Mr. Chung.
What a showcase from Frank, switching it up completely yet again. He says, you know what, Nikki was great for me, but so is Anvil.
I love it. I love his usage of these occult girls and what they can provide. And Mr. Chung tried to answer back with his own switch up as well, but one thing that you mentioned still lingers in my mind, Peter. You mentioned that he didn't really have much synergy. He was just relying kind of solely on this Fire Ryu, and the moment he gets stunned and bursted down, the game is over.
So that was a really well played out draft by Frank. He absolutely banned the correct unit there in Hathor. And of course now, coming in to match number 2, this is not yet match point because we must remind you guys, the finals is a best of 5.
Yep, best of 5 indeed. So still a little bit of a road to go for Frank. And of course, for anyone who missed it, as a quick reminder, the new monsters, the Sky Surfer and Robo, not active yet in the preliminaries. They will be active in the regional cups and onward for SWC 2021. So now the pre-bans. This time it's going to be Gianna, and then we're going to see the Dark Pioneer being banned out by Mr. Chung.
Going for the potential Okeanos, he recognizes that Mr. Chung has shown good performance on the Okeanos, and he wants to be taking that away. Ganny and Lulu, we've seen these two first pick before.
Yep, and Lulu, of course, continuing to provide a lot of value. That does mean the Water Ryu this time available, so Frank will be picking up that monster for himself. And now there is Chiton Dashang and another new pickup here for Mr. Chung.
Yeah, I mean, we are just seeing a lot of different strategies being just showcased by both players here.
I love it. I love the adaptation, especially in a best of 5. You want to constantly be bouncing back and forth. We got the Dark Kobo Bomber coming out from Mr. Chung, and now we're looking at potentially more Paladin gameplay here today. We've seen a couple variations, the Antares being considered as well.
Antares and Leona bring so much damage now for Frank within the single target. And if you look at the side of Mr. Chung, Bearing is there as a stripper to set up for the Ganny and Chiton Dashang. So there's not too much damage on the side of Mr. Chung, but he's absolutely packed with CC. So Mr. Chung seeing Leona and Antares.
Oh my gosh, no way. No way. No way. You're just taunting.
And he says, no, I am not taunting. Carbine, I've seen this unit do great work, and I want to use it too. It's so fun.
What? This is crazy. Mr. Chung bringing out the Carbine against Frank himself, and he now locks it in. The Chiton Dashang does get banned out. Antares getting banned out by Mr. Chung, but listen, for me, Peter, my eyes are just on this Carbine. Can he get that shot up? Can he get the one shot, one kill? This is now game number 2 in this best of 5 between Frank and Mr. Chung in the winners finals of Group C in the APAC preliminaries.
For me, Chobra, I'm looking for the damage from the Water Ryu. It has done so much, but there is Carbine. He is charging up now. We know he's so scary as we see the silence coming out of Bearing.
Oh man, silence across the board, and now the Water Ryu does have a chance to answer back. He just does nuke down the Bearing.
so much damage from this Water Ryu. We are seeing him take out units left and right. But now, the problem is Frank is scared to touch Carbine, and if he gets a turn uncontested, we know what he can do.
Yeah, so he's just really skirting around the issue here. Lulu has some options, is just gonna go for the top up across the team.
If you look at this, Shobra, it's literally a one-man Carbine team. Yanni and Lulu are there to just support him. All just weight is on the shoulders of Carbine right now. If you're Leona, you don't want to touch him because that could give him attack buff and full attack bar.
Oh, you can just tell Frank just tiptoeing around this Carbine, trying to do what he can. Now, you've got the Rain of Stones, but you've got the immunity as well, and on top of that, again, you want to avoid the Carbine, so just goes for the reset onto the Lulu. Does get it.
We're playing hot potato right now. No one wants to be the one to touch the Carbine.
Boy.
Lulu, she doesn't have any skills as of yet, but all eyes are pointed towards Carbine right now because he's about to take a turn right afterwards.
Yep, and
there
it is.
Accurate fire.
Oh. What? That's not the Carbine we saw from before. This one's different. Not able to secure a kill, not able to just completely...
Bukaku! But look at that!
Down.
He gains the attack bar anyways because the Water Ryu glanced on him. He has another shot now, but the Rain of Stones looking for the kill!
Oh, and he gets it! He says you're low enough, not gonna get a chance. Frank is able to tiptoe around the Carbine long enough, dodges one bullet, doesn't get eliminated from that one shot, and now he has the lead. It's just Yanni and Lulu left, and that's the GG out for Mr.Chung.
Frank!
Wow!
Coming in super strong against a defending champion. 2-0 right now. How do you stop this guy?
I mean, listen, we had questions, right? We were trying to theorize about what do you do against Mr.Chung, and Peter, you gave us some options on what one could do, and Frank is coming in. I mean, he's pressuring enough that Mr.Chung's also had to switch up some of his drafts, and now that is really starting to bite him back, and Frank is now in the lead 2-0.
You know, Chobra, I felt your disappointment. The viewers felt your disappointment. You loved Carbine so much. You were hyping it up. That was like the highlight of your day, but what was that?
I mean, I was going to say that damage wasn't that great, but it almost felt like it wasn't existent compared to the earlier shots that we've seen when we saw it picked from Frank himself. So we'll see. I mean, Mr.Chung, I really feel like he's trying to really throw some curveballs because he notices that Frank seems well prepared against what he's bringing out today, but it's not working out. Frank now at match point in this best of 5.
Right, so to give more of a detailed explanation as to why Carbine didn't do as much damage is because Frank played so smart around it, didn't touch it a single time, so Carbine didn't have attack buff. Had he had attack buff, that could have been the snipe, so we are seeing why Frank was able to make it this far against Mr.Chung, leading, and this could be match point for Frank.
Frank just really understanding what he's playing up against, not giving that extra edge, and that extra damage not coming in, of course, without the buff. As you mentioned, Peter, love to see that little detail coming out from Frank. So now, in this third game, what does Mr.Chung do? Chiton Desheng is banned out once again, and now we see, of course, the Water Ryu was banned out. We've got a couple picks already down the road. Now we're seeing kind of a return to standard picks all throughout. The Ganny Oki combo, this time on the side of Frank.
A lot of AoE synergy on the side of Frank, and one of the most traditional responses to that is the vertical, because when the opponent has so many AoEs, you have that many more chances to try to proc a revenge, as we are seeing a potential return of Rigel.
Oh my gosh, Rigel, you mentioned it before as well. This is another monster we kind of mentioned as having a good theory behind it. We didn't see it to great success so far in the APAC preliminaries, but now it is locked in for Mr.Chung.
I like the Leona, but I like Kinky even more.
He's bouncing back and forth. Frank, he really wants to secure this.
And Annabelle, I think I actually like that the most out of those three. It brings that extra sustain, that control, the secure damage against fire that Frank needed.
Okay, well, the Annabelle comes out, but does get banned out promptly. And meanwhile, the Lulu going to be banned out against Mr.Chung. So that sturdy sustain that we've seen all throughout SWC 2021, not going to happen. This is match point on the spot for Group C. They want a seed to the APAC Cup. Frank leading 2-0 in this best of 5.
Frank, he's got to play around the Vertihal and the Rigel. That is why he opts to save his skill 3, not going for AoE any sooner than he needs to. Of course, Okiams with the Spear of Devastation, perfect setup for Chung Pong. Now all Chung Pong has to do is go for a serious matter.
And he is able to get some control.
Some control, but Vertihal responded back with a counter. Ganymede coming in now clutch with the skill 3. But the problem is, this stage was meant for Okeanos. But when he's provoked, you cannot do Rain of Stones anymore.
You're right. I mean, this Okeanos not able to really do anything until that provoke is gone above his head. So now, just have to buy a little bit more time. It looks like Frank has to skirt around the issue for just a little longer.
Now, Chung with the Ventilate is going to be able to buy more time for Oki, but the Vertihal, he does it again!
My gosh, just keeps answering back. The Vertihal providing so much value for exactly the purpose he was brought in.
Now, this is where we need to see the Okeanos move if you're rooting for Frank right now, because that Rain of Stones could seal the deal for Mr. Chung. Of course, there's still the Rigel that he needs to work through, but I'm sure the damage will be there.
Okay, well, of course, that slow is buying just a little bit of time before Okeanos can get his turn, but it's starting to come up. Lots of damage being dealt onto the Okeanos.
The skill 2, it has a chance to freeze, and he gets it!
Oh my gosh, Mr. Chung is able to really just block that one window, and now he gets to continue the game, trying to play it on his own terms. Now, Gianna was very low, already now has the Death Break as well.
Her surviving. It could be huge if she gets a bomb up somehow, but the question is, does she have the Violent Runes? She's probably runed on Swift, I guess.
Okay, yeah, not going to get that extra turn, so she's not going to be able to get the bomb off. Does get a little bit of damage, and that should be
what?
the end. Oh my gosh!
When does he stop?
Oh my gosh, you get the finish on the Gianna, but the Vertihal has some different plans.
Every single time, Frank. I mean, he's been playing so patiently with his AoEs, but each time he raises his head, he instantly gets smacked back down.
Yeah, Frank, you called it as it is. You can tell he's really working around. He knows how he has to play this, but this Vertihal is just waiting for him to pop out.
Jiwoo looking for some potential sleep, but it gets resisted. Frank, things are not going so good for him right now. Ganymede is here to get the Ventilate going, but he saves it because he realizes Chung has skill 3 up and ready to go.
Oh, so he's just going to wait for that extra chance in a little bit.
But here's a problem. What if your Chung gets provoked? That's what the Cardinal's looking to do, but the glancing hit came in huge.
Woo.
Now Rigel, he's also got glancing hit, and it comes in huge.
Oh my gosh, the glancing is massive here for Chung.
The first time that I have seen this Vertihal not revenge, so Frank right now is getting that time he wanted. Now, it is a bit scary to ventilate the Chung because what if Rigel kills it right? Rigel's looking for the crit, but he doesn't get it.
Okay, another glance. Chung stays alive, but as you mentioned,
the last
just
one,
playing it safe.
The armor break was not there.
And revenge from the Vertihal strikes back yet again.
You look at the sustain from Rigel and the damage. How is Ganny going to work around 2 threats at once? It is looking very grim for Frank at this point.
Yeah, Frank, I mean, he tried his best. He does get another turn here on that Ganny.
Another turn, but the Seal Magic is only doing 2,000. We can see that this Ganny is not built for damage, and that is going to be the bane for Frank, because now we see Chiwoo. He's going to be taken out. There's a huge fan from the Vertihal, and that should be game over.
Yeah, I don't really see an answer here. As you mentioned, the damage just seemingly lacking for this Ganny. He's still just hoping for one chance, but even then, the Ganny, you have to have a miracle of bursting people down right now if you want to turn this around.
Even with glancing landing on Vertihal, he crits twice anyways, and that is going to be the match. Going over to Mr. Chung.
Mr. Chung brings it back. He puts a win on the board, and now he's going for the comeback. He gets 1 win. The score still 2-1 lead for Frank, but Mr. Chung finally found an answer against Frank in this game number 3.
It feels like just the CC style of play just got countered so hard by the Vertihal. Because of all those revenges, Mr. Chung was able to buy enough time he needed for Rigel to get that solo performance for the first time here today at the SWC 2021 APAC preliminaries.
Yeah, that Vertihal, I mean, you mentioned it, that Vertihal was pretty much just playing whack-a-mole, and he was the speediest player we'd seen. He's always ready to strike back whenever Frank tries tries to go for any type of AoE. And so while Frank was playing correctly, as you called it, Peter, around the composition, Mr.Chung still able to come out on top with that draft. We'll see how things change this time around. It's going to be Gianna and Ganymede now being banned out. The Ganymede off the board here in Game 4. Still match point for Frank in this best of 5 in the winners finals, trying to get a spot in the APAC Cup.
Frank is definitely feeling comfortable with his advantage, but he wants to lock in the victory here. He can't let Mr.Chung come to a 2-2-2 because then it could just all collapse on him at once.
Yeah, if you go down to the wire there, it's really, really dicey, and you can tell Frank, he's got a lot of things racing through his mind. The Okeanos was the consideration. It does get locked in, and now Mr.Chung this time takes away the Chung Pong and then the Lulu for himself as well.
Mr.Chung, he's been taking Ganny and Lulu very frequently, but because he banned Ganny, or pre-banned it himself, of course he had to opt for a bit of a switch up. And now Frank, I'm sure that he is feeling not so good about going all-inning on CC again because Mr.Chung.
Okay, so now we're going to see that Nikki return for Frank with the Water Ryu. The Water Ryu wasn't pre-banned, and so it is able to come back. Of course, this time it was open from the pre-ban. And now, Mr. Chung, what is your answer? You've seen this comp in action.
I am definitely a fan of the presence of Heigang because it makes it so that the Water Ryu, once he gets his skill 2 off, your team could try to potentially cut, and that definitely puts a lot of fear into the mind of Frank as we see Wunsa coming out. Very fast stripper, brings that attack bar boost for the teammates. If he manages to strip a buff, Savannah is just there for just perfect damage.
Okay, so Frank trying to answer back with his own adaptations as well. You mentioned the Heigang. Frank answers with the Wunsa. How does this pan out? Mr. Chung still has one pick left to try to throw another change right now. He was able to secure his own Chitan Desheng. We know how much he loves that monster. Now, Mr. Chung looking for something to round out his composition.
Mr. Chung knows he's in trouble if he lets Frank's composition go through uncontested. So it seems like Mr. Chung is not aiming for a unit that interrupts in between Frank's combos, but more like a unit where if you fail to take me out in one turn, then I will strike back with all the CC is what Mr. Chung is saying.
Yeah, you've got that Cardinal, you've got the Chung Pong, you've got the Chitan Desheng, of course, and then you've got the Lulu as well. So if things aren't eliminated immediately, this is looking dicey for Frank, but we've seen him do it before. Match point for Frank, leading 2-1 in this best of 5.
This is
in
where
the winners finals.
Oh! But the thing is, we know that Nikki doesn't need the strip. We are seeing the damage come out. Okeana Savannah, they have the attack bar. Here comes the Rain of Stones, riding up the damage. And now Savannah with the gigantic roar, trying to seal the deal. This could be the moment that Frank is looking for. He is waiting on the time. He knows he needs the critical link.
Okay, and he's taking out the Lulu, so now the sustain gone from the side of Mr. Chung. He still has everyone very low. He needs to finish them off, though. If the CC all starts to chain together, no stuns from that Sword Rain.
No stuns. That is definitely not what you wanted to see as Mr. Chung, nor was Chitan Desheng able to get in a window for skill 3. And look at that!
Oh my gosh, Frank, are you doing it? So much damage. The Cardinal alone, and he gets wiped out. Frank swiftly eliminates every single monster from the side of Mr. Chung, and he will be moving on to the APAC Cup from Group C of the APAC preliminaries.